This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. Scam centre after scam centre after scam centre is raided, and I tell you why. A woman cuts up a friend's body rather than pay her debt, and we have the most unbothered man the world has ever seen at the end of the show. In fact, it could be my most favourite story of the year. But first to something much more serious, and that is a barrage of headlines that all hit at exactly the same time. It all started with this headline: Royal Government issues 9-point order to crack down on online scams. This kind of lit the glowing embers of action, but it was the very next day the urgency was ramped up more than just a notch or two when this headline appeared. PM warns senior officials of sackings over failure to stop online scams. And my goodness, I could hardly catch my breath as a blizzard of news stories came sweeping across my desk. Now, please note, all these stories were on just one single day, literally a few working hours, and it kicked off with 27 foreigners arrested in Passat online scam centre raids. Then there was this: over 100 foreigners arrested in series of raids on Phnom Penh online scam operations. It was quickly followed by this: 312 foreigners detained in major raid on online scam centre. And right behind it was this: Kampong Spew illegal online gambling site and casino raided. Blimey. Now remember, that was all in one single day. The PM said that if the scam call centre issue is not dealt with, people will be losing their jobs. And so it was. The doors were kicked in and jail cells started to fill at a lightning speed. So why is there so many of these scam centres? Well, that is easy to answer. In Cambodia alone, it is reported that these centres rake in over $12 billion. And if you want to add in Myanmar and Laos, that number balloons to $44 billion every year. That is $120 million every single day. Now, this is where I get angry. You see, that huge number does not tell you of the river of tears that was created by these scam call centres. Innocent people, often the elderly and the vulnerable, those that have learning difficulties, or those that are just not astute, and many who are lonely and they're suckered in by someone being friendly to them. It is they that are being robbed blind and utterly ruined for the rest of their lives, because these evil people only know of their own greed. They care not if an elderly woman is left with nothing, only tears of regret streaming down her face. Never ever think that these scam call centres are all about money. They are about the complete destruction of vulnerable people's lives. And the amount of suicides they have caused is the only real number that counts. A number that reaches into the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. Innocent people who have taken their lives after they were destroyed by a call centre scam. In this week's Crime Desk, a woman dismembers her friend's body rather than pay the loan. Another woman boasts and then goes bust, and it serves her bloody well right. And the tale of the world's most unbothered man ever. A woman has now confessed to the most savage of crimes, and yet again we see not only murder, but the dismemberment of a corpse. Now let us first have a look at the murderer herself. Here she is. Look at her. She is tiny. She looks more like a child than an adult. Compare her size to the two officers that are flanking her. But do remember, her tiny physique did not hinder her in the most gruesome crime. She borrowed money from a friend named Yang Ing, and 2 long years passed without repayment. Then, by accident, the two ran into one another, and the victim asked her old friend to come and stay at her house. And, by the way, where's my cash that I lent you? It was then the victim disappeared from the face of the earth. But it was not long before the debtor was arrested. In a remarkable confession, the unnamed killer said, without any remorse at all, that she had killed the victim by strangling her. She said she had killed her as she did not accept $300. Yang Ing wanted to be paid the full debt, which was $700. The killer went on to say, I wanted to kill her with a kitchen knife, but I was worried people would see the blood, so I strangled her. When Yang Ing was dead, the suspect placed the corpse into a freezer to hide it from her husband and daughter, who were soon due home. The very next day, when her husband and her daughter had left the family home, she removed the body from the freezer, and she then started cutting it up into manageable pieces. She then threw those body parts into the Tonle Sap River. The killer herself said, I am very smart. I used to be a chef, and I have experience in chopping up chickens, pigs, and cows. But despite declaring to the police that she was very smart, it was the plan of an idiot. As the body parts floated downriver, and very soon local fishermen in their fishing nets started hauling up hands, fingers, feet, arms, and legs. And it was not long before Phnom Penh police got involved. And now, this woman, who declares herself so very smart, is looking at a life sentence, all because she didn't pay her loan. Now, let's go to something rather more frivolous, and that is for the sole reason of making a change. And I can also guarantee you that you will hate the lady connected with this story in approximately 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Our tale is very much one of pictures, and the first is the central player in this story, and here she is, and her name is Molika. Here she is leaning against a car that she once owned, and it shows Un's lifestyle. You see, she also owned these cars. Yep, that bright red one is a Ferrari. She even made it to the press when she purchased it. And man, oh man, did she ever love flaunting her wealth. Here she is with a big pile of cash. Now, I know about cash, and I can tell you that she's holding $250,000 there. Here's another photo with her, and yet more cash. And a thumbs down. No, I have no idea why that may be. Maybe she's just learnt that big piles of cash stink. No, really, money in large amounts really does smell awful. Here she is again with yet more money, and yet again with a vast amount of dosh. And it's about now, I think you're getting the calibre of this lady. So how did she make all this money? Well, she was one of the very first to start selling face creams online, but it all went terribly wrong when this happened. Disgraced online Lotion Celebrity sent to jail for 15 months on bad check charges. Yep, she issued checks for over $300,000 when she had absolutely no cash left because she had wasted it all on being a self-important sort of person. Even her husband made the headlines with this. Weeping husband of disgraced internet Lotion Celebrity claims missing millions disappeared due to financial negligence. Financial negligence? You don't say. Really? Who would have thought it? Anyway, Owen has had a very different look nowadays, as she looks like this. The only green surrounding her, it ain't $100 bills, but the uniforms of cops. But I have not fulfilled my promise, have I? I said I would make you hate this lady by the end of the story. Well, let's try this and see how it fits. The woman, who was blessed with millions of dollars and then flaunted it like a peacock struts around with its feathers, ran up debts to people who she could not pay, and she now owes hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, what did she have to say? She said this, and I quote, "I am also a victim." Of course you are. You got a huge pile of cash, set a very selfish example, and now owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to a long list of creditors. But it is you who is the victim. I wonder if she's related to my ex. I've really been looking forward to this story. Here goes. We close with a story that is so deliciously odd, it just had to be in here. Let us first of all gaze upon a man who is the most unbothered person ever to grace a news show. Take a good look at him whilst I'm telling you what he could not be bothered to do. It is just so amazing it will stagger you. It all started late one night when his wife, I think we could say long-suffering wife, woke her husband with an extreme level of urgency. She had something very alarming to tell him. She told him in a frantic tone, "My waters have broken. I'm going to have the baby." To which the most unbothered man in the world responded, "I'm tired. I'm going back to rest." Yep, he said, "You deal with it, love. I can't be asked. I'm going back to sleep." What a guy. So, the lady was now on her own. She clambered out of bed, but she realised the family motto had no headlight, due to her husband not being asked to repair that either. So she had to don a miner's helmet on her head so she could navigate down the pitch black country roads to get her to the hospital. Now, the story does not tell us as to how far the hospital was, but trust me, it wasn't just round the corner. So, down the bumpy road the lady went with her miner's helmet. And here she is, arriving at the hospital on that very bike. Note, she even bought the bag with the essential baby stuff. You legend, you're my hero. Now, I'm pleased to say the birth went well. And here she is, our heroine, holding her beautiful baby. So what about old Captain in Action, the husband who couldn't be bothered to get out of bed? Well, he showed up a few hours later, and here they are together. Please note the lady's less than pleased expression. My God, she must have the patience of a saint. I pity her more than she will ever know. The news story itself concluded with this line saying, and I am quoting here, "It is hoped that the father will now be more active in his paternal duties." Come on, let's face it here. If he was less active, he would be declared dead. Now, one last thing. I have had some feedback on this guy's behaviour from a man named Michael. Please notice how I body swerved saying the word gentleman there. You see, he wrote in and he said this: "I think he deserves a medal. He was woken up and he assessed the situation and he realised his wife could handle it alone." Quite incredibly, Michael is not single, but he does seem to live in the Victorian era. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And here we are at the weather now. Before we go into the weather, I'd like to show you something from my week, basically, because the weather is boring. And this week it's all about walls, and walls can be fun. Have a look at this one. This is, of course, the Great Wall of China. And everyone thinks it looks like this, and it does in parts, but the vast majority is just an earthen mound that's been pushed up. It doesn't all look like that, believe me. And then we have another famous wall, which is Hadrian's Wall, the great Roman wall in England, which is said to keep the barbarians out from the north. Not so. That wall was in fact built for tax purposes. So when I found my own very special wall here in the kingdom, I decided to name this segment Cambodia's Weirdest Wall. Now you can imagine my delight, being a bit of a wall fan, as I was cycling along down this very road that is appearing on your screen. And as you can see there is the cycle I like to use to do my cycling. Right next to it is this shop. Unremarkable. We see a patron leaving with some purchase in his left hand. It is next door we're interested in, for there the most amazing wall in Cambodia lies. Now, can you see what it's made of? And it's quite long. Don't think it's short. It's made of televisions. This guy has built his front wall entirely out of old TVs. And if I scan up a bit, there you can see that's his house. That's where the gentleman resides. I say gentleman because it's obviously only going to be a bloke that will come up with something that's quite as imaginative, shall we say, just to be generous, as this. Look, and there it is. The amazing wall of Cambodia. I love it to bits. That really is something quite remarkable. And so it is to the weather.
Right then, as always, I've got to try and get it up, and that does involve fiddling with my knobs. And hang on, there we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, God, got it up quite quick this week. That makes pleasant change, doesn't it? And you probably, having a look at it, you probably wish I didn't. You'd rather I kept it down, because we see that there's rain across the board. Some of it's light, some of it's thundery, and some of it is stormy. And as I look across those temperatures, I'm getting 94, 95. There's even a 96 towards the end of the week. So it's still pretty damn hot. And that is not eased at all, as the wind will just be only 6 miles per hour.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.